Good afternoon. My name is Hugo Lenza. I am the chair of the Delaware Valley Veterans Consortium. This is DVVC's Town Hall, an occasional series on events that are timely and important to the veteran and military community. DVVC is Southeastern Pennsylvania's Community Veteran Engagement Board, or CVEB, whose mission it is to unite military and veteran service organizations and advocates who share common goals to build programmatic capacity and increase services to clients under the umbrella of regional collaboration. DVVC currently has over 140 member organizations in southeastern Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey. This town hall is designed to share information about the Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson honoring our promise to address comprehensive toxics, or PACT Act, signed into law on August 22nd, 2022. I will tell you that I have been through a number of these briefings and I've learned new information every time. So I recommend that you do the same. If there's an opportunity to attend a briefing, please do so. The leadership at DVVC feels strongly that information about the PACT Act is critical to the health and well-being of veterans of numerous eras, hence the need for this town hall meeting. As I mentioned before, the chat box has been disabled for this webinar. Please place all your questions in the Q&A box. I'd like to introduce our two speakers. The first is Karen Flaherty-Oxler, MSN RN Medical Center Director. Karen Flaherty-Oxler, MSN NRN, is the Medical Center Director of the Corporal Michael J. Crescenz VA Medical Center. She is a retired Rear Admiral of the United States Navy and served as the Senior Vice President, Chief Nurse, and Patient Experience Executive of the Atlantic Health System in Morristown, New Jersey, from 2016 to 2018. Prior to taking on that role, she spent several years in various progressive positions at the Lancaster General Health System in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Ms. Flaherty-Oxler spent more than 2 years as the Deputy Surgeon General and Deputy Chief for the Bureau of Medicine and Surgery in the United States Navy. Prior to that role, she also served as the Associate Director for Patient and Nursing Services at the Crescenz VA Medical Center for approximately 6 years. She received a master's degree in nursing administration and a certificate of administration from the University of Pennsylvania. Our second speaker is Lillie Nuble, Executive Director, Philadelphia Regional Office of the Veterans Benefits Administration here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Lillie Nuble is responsible for administering VA benefits to 1,031,660 veterans and their families living in Eastern Pennsylvania, Southern New Jersey, and Delaware. These services include administration of compensation and pension, national call center services, and vocational rehabilitation and employment benefits. Prior to this appointment, she served as the director of the Newark, New Jersey Regional Office from October 2016 to May 2020, and as the assistant director of the Buffalo, New York Regional Office from February 2010 to October 2016. Mrs. Nuble retired from the United States Navy Reserves in October 2005. She served during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. Ms. Nuble is a graduate of Veterans Benefits Administration's Directors Development Program 2020 and Executive Coaching in 2017. And with that, we'll get into the briefing. So Karen, can you lead us off with talking about VHA and the PACT Act?
Certainly. So thank you so much, Hugo. So Lillie, hearing where you've been assigned, I'm not sure if you are a Buffalo fan, if you are a Jets fan, a Giants fan, Eagles fan.
Eagles all the way.
All right then. Very good. All right. So Lillie and I have done a number of our presentations together. We are good buddies, good partners, and we are here to provide support and help answer any questions you may have. There is a formal presentation here. I wanted to include the slides so you would have them, and then they could be distributed. So they're for you to use. At the end of the day, you know, really, this is about keeping our promises to our veterans, to veterans and to our military team members who serve now, have served, and may have experienced some health issues down the road. This was the largest expansion. We'll go to the next slide, Fern, please. Thank you. She's running that because I can't run my mouth and run the slides. It's both together. So really, this is to honoring our promise to address comprehensive toxics PACT Act of 2022. Is going to help us define what toxic exposure is, the eligibility, the screening, and the education for our veterans, the research that's underway and will continue to be underway, and then the presumption of service connection changes that we can talk about. I'll scoot through these pretty quickly. You'll have them, but really more importantly is probably the questions. So next, please. This is the why behind this. The Senate Veterans Affairs Committee named this after Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson. He was deployed to Kosovo and Iraq with the Ohio National Guard. He came home and he was exposed to burn pits, and he came home and he was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder in late stage 4 lung cancer, both associated with burn pit exposure. He's passed away, but he asked his wife, and he was, as you can see here, he was 39 years old. He asked his wife to make sure that the fight continued, that the honoring of him in this way would honor the rest and open the doors for the eligibility for those who served all of us, served our country, made sure we were safe at nighttime and being safe in our country here or wherever we were, but make sure that this continued to go forward. So next slide, please. So our Undersecretary for Health is Dr. Sharif El-Nahal. He comes out of New Jersey. He has been with VA for a bit and then went back in the private sector. During the pandemic, he ran the University Hospital in Newark, New Jersey. And so he is one of the biggest champions, and he will help us all continue to support the PACT Act to help serve veterans who have served. It's the largest expansion of veteran benefits in healthcare in VA's history, and it could impact up to several million veterans. Lillie, I know we'll talk more about that. It's veteran-centric. So when this was signed into law by President Biden, August 10th of 2022, it started then. We have the law includes tools, resources that can help not only with the presumption of conditions, but also help some of the growing needs of veterans today and in the future. There's some language, some sections in this law also that will help us with leasing, will help us with hiring, will help us with some salary structures authority, as well as making sure we have the right number of people to care for the veterans in this new role. So it's adding team members to VHA, VBA, to try to make sure that this is all done well and timely. So next, Fern, if I could. Military environmental exposure, and it's a wide variety of agents. I'm not going to read everything, but if you think that it might be, we ask the question and let's see if it is. So nuclear, chemical, physical, could be vibration, could be noise, could be X-rays, it could be, depleted uranium, any number of things could be considered, should be considered, and we should rule it in versus ruling it out from the very beginning. And again, the important piece here too, as we go to the next slide, it's while deployed or while in garrison. So think about your career, your military career. Here is just a list because I want you to have these slides that came out from our national office of VHA with these pieces listed. And this is the beginning from what we understand. We understand that some of the research that's underway, some of the screenings that are underway right now may give us visibility as to some other things that might be in the future. Next, please. VA healthcare eligibility expands it. It gives us different categories. And in bottom line on this is there are different categories that are based on times of service and location of service, where you were assigned, where you might have been, where you might have been deployed to, or where you might have been stationed in garrison. Next, please. So this again is for your expansion, and we can answer any questions. We'll try to answer any questions. So the different categories 1 and 2 will be eligible beginning October. Well, you can see 1 and 2 will be eligible beginning on these dates, and this is based on time of service. If you think about August 2nd, 1990 to September 11, 2001, that's your Gulf War era. It's different generations and era of veterans who were discharged or released on these dates. This is exhausted. This can be perhaps a long listing, but what it just allows us to do is to identify that we may start to see some conditions that occur based on exposure, certainly down the road during that person's lifetime. And so this is what the dates show us. We'll work through all of that. you can see that veterans who were discharged, say, October 1, 2028, they become eligible because they were discharged between January 1, 2007 and December 31, 2012. This was the first pass at the slides based on times of service. Next, please. All right. I'm not going to go through all of these because this just gives you some amplifying information of time frame of service and then also discharge dates. So next, please. And again, Vietnam era veteran eligibility, healthcare eligibility changed somewhat and had some more inclusions. But again, this is here for your review. Next slide, please. Here's where I would want us to focus a little bit more on this. For Gulf War and post 9/11 veterans, there were some added conditions, presumptions of service connection with conditions that we're starting to see. Some of these are cancer diagnoses, as you can see. Some of them are some chronic sinusitis, rhinitis, some pulmonary disease, lung obstructions, some emphysema. But again, it's more about inclusion versus saying, well, that's not impacted. So previously, and I know Director Nuble and Lillie has talked about this previously, we may have veterans who have applied for benefits previously and were denied. This is changing some of that, and we'll talk a little bit more about make sure you reapply for benefit for presumptions for conditions of consideration. Here on here as well is for Vietnam veterans. So high blood pressure was one that was added. Many people have high blood pressure, both whether they served or didn't serve. But again, this is a presumption of service connection for high blood pressure for those Vietnam veterans. So next, please. So this is really, I'm not going to, Director Nuble will talk about this, about how you file and process claims and what we need to know. Process is simplified to be able to help us all. Next, please. So another piece that was included here as well is separate from the PACT Act, but it also supporting some of this is the Dr. Kate Hendricks Thomas supporting expanded review for veterans in combat environments, the Service Act. So it also expands toxic exposure eligibility for veterans who served overseas. Particularly, this is for clinically appropriate mammography screening for veterans of any age. As you recall, sometimes mammography screening it starts at certain ages of women veterans based on either some genetic predisposition, some history, some other pieces. But this allows much broader access to mammography services paid for by VA. And it gives you the time frames here where they say if you were deployed here, think about this, the exposure might have occurred. It does not change any of your healthcare enrollment or claims, but it allows for expanded benefits here for mammography screening. So we can easily and early catch any possibility of any breast cancer diagnoses or other ductal diagnoses that might occur. Next, please. So beginning this last November, every enrolled veteran received an initial toxic exposure screening and follow-up screening will happen once every 5 years. So they're eligible for screening. I know I received a letter in the mail talking about this, making sure that I would enroll and that I make sure that I would be, eligible for the screening, what my opportunities were. And we will have an opportunity to, ask questions. Just here in Philadelphia, we had a briefing this morning at our Executive Leadership Committee, and then again at our Veteran Advisory Committee at noon timeframe. Philly VA already has screened over 9,000 veterans. And so when you look at in the network, our network is of 9 hospitals, we account for at least half of those screenings across the network. And again, very simple. You come in for your primary care appointment. You have some questions that are asked. It's the initial screening. Our goal is to have the initial screening and the secondary screening if there's an answer to either yes or I don't know, where you've been stationed or exposure. we do the secondary screening, and we try to do it in the very same visit, so we don't need people to come back for those additional questions. That's our goal. So we're driving toward that. We're adding team members to help with that. And then once that initial screening occurs, there will be a follow-up screening every 5 years, unless there's some need to have something in between. So that's really what this is about. We were asked to develop our outreach program for this. I'm here on the call with all of you as a piece of outreach, but also to make sure you're thinking in terms of where else do we go? How else do we reach others that you may know of or apart? So we're learning this, of course, as we go, but we're moving pretty fast. And we're moving pretty fast because since November timeframe, we have already done 9,000 initial screenings. All right, next, please, Fern. So we also are having some very significant military supported and VA funded environmental research. So we're looking at a 5-year strategic plan to help us understand the mortality of veterans who served in Southwest Asia during the Gulf War. We hear about Gulf War disease, we hear about all of that, but really, what does it mean? What are we seeing? What are we identifying now that some of those veterans, and I'm one of those Gulf War veterans, we're 30 years out from 1991. Sorry, yeah, 30 years out. So you think in terms of what clinical manifestations might you be seeing now, and how do we wrap our arms around that so we can understand, are there other new conditions we might be seeing? We're looking at the post 9/11 veterans and the health trends there. We're looking at the cancer rates, and of course we had some conversations early on about Camp Lejeune, some of the water samples, some of the studies there, seeing a higher rate of some cancers there. That's all inclusive here. Facts are friendly things, and if we learn more about what we see, and we learn more about the translational aspect there through the research, we can apply that to other veterans and I would say be at the forefront of encouraging either care, treatment, early diagnoses, and early treatment. Because in the cancer arena, if you can identify a cancer at stage 1 or stage 2, your mortality, decrease, your likelihood to survive longer is higher, and the comorbidities of the disease process changes. This is about living with cancers now versus dying from cancers. And so if we have more information about all of that, and we know that based on some exposures, there are a higher propensity to have some of these cancers, perhaps, we'll learn more, and we'll learn more for others. So you can see that this went on to look at the effects of jet fuel, and really just taking a look at the waste removal, how that all happens. Of course, the burn pits we talked about. So I'll just go on to the next, please. All right, so find out if you're eligible for VA healthcare, because the worst thing you can do is not be enrolled, not ask the questions, check your eligibility. Everyone is eligible for the screening. And then there's an enrollment piece that may occur. You apply for benefits, you submit a claim, and we'll open this up for other pieces. And then ideally, you're part of a registry that will allow us to have more information to use wisely, to be able to care for others, to help prevent some of the long-term untoward effects of some of the exposures, where we can see if we can modify the trajectory of the changes, clinical changes that we might see. So bottom line up front on this, largest expansion of healthcare benefits that we've seen in a long period of time, eligibility for benefits, presumptions that if you were stationed somewhere, there was exposure, not the other way of saying prove all this before. So presumption of conditions. I believe that, so from the period of time from August 10th, when the bill was signed by President Biden, to August of this year, there is an easier process. And if you're enrolled, become eligible, enrolled, it backdates to August. And Lillie will correct me if I'm wrong. I think I'm right on that one. But after that, after August of 2023, from the time that the claim has been submitted, your date starts. I'm going to pause there because Director Nuble knows a whole lot more than I do. I'll answer any clinical questions you might have. If not, I'll phone a friend. But bottom line on this one, don't be sitting on the outside looking in. Get in the inside of the circle. Say, yes, I served here. I was here. I don't know, but let us figure out with you what might be.
Karen, thank you so much for that.
You're good. Yep.
We do have a couple questions that came in, and I'd like to address kind of health specific
Sure.
while they're. So we had an attendee who talked about polycystic ovary syndrome, and is that one of the conditions as well? As she said she was screened recently, but what are the next steps? So kind of an ethereal or a conceptual question, the very practical question.
Yeah, so if she was screened, then the comp and pension providers would have done that screening with or with primary care, and then file a claim. I guess that's the best piece. File a claim. Then if there's the need for that comp and pension review examination, that comes back to us for that review. It doesn't call out polycystic ovarian disease. Yet you want to make sure if there's that is a precursor to some other cancer or could be, you want to make sure we know about it and we get that review done, which we can do.
So the question was, what should she do next after she was asked about exposure? Go back and kind of make sure that the wheels are turning? So
the next, if she was asked about exposure, there should be a follow-up with if there's a primary screen and a secondary screen. Okay. And then there's the eligibility or presumption of conditions based on deployment, where the person may have been either in garrison or deployed. So it had those pieces all have to come together. So you can certainly ask the question. We can help navigate that with her. And we do have the toxic exposure screening social workers who work here at the facility. If the care was here, we can help with that. Okay. There are a number of questions. So Karen, what I would ask, if you can, is take a look at the Q&A. We're in the Q&A? Sure. And think about those while Lillie is talking, and then we can come back together. I would also, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. One of your slides talked about if you left the military between a certain date. Yes. So I will use myself as an example. Sure. I left the military in October 2013. If I read that slide correctly, I'm not eligible for care until 2030. And maybe don't answer that right now, but that is something that's kind of spinning through my mind. So you're a category, I've got it right here. You're a category 1 and 2. You're eligible for healthcare eligibility. 2030 veterans who were discharged or released between 2013 and 2018. Okay. And it is because of the manifestation of cancers and the time frames. Yep. But again, what I'm going to suggest to you though is if there's symptoms or if there's something that occurs, get right back, get right there. Understood. And that could change. This is what we know now. Yep. And let me be clear, I'm using myself as an example here. I'm sure I would like to think that other people have the same question. So please take a look at the Q&A, Karen. I sure will. See what you can address. And Lillie, can you talk to us about VBA and PACT Act, please? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Again, my name is Lillie Nuble, Executive Director for both Philadelphia and Wilmington. And so thanks, Karen, as always enjoy your partnership. So hopefully some of the information that I will provide is not too redundant from what Karen has already provided. I think John is controlling the slides right now. So again, these are slides that can be shared with you. And so don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this slide because I think Karen has probably did a great job. She did do a great job of saying what the PACT Act is. And all I would like to say is that, again, it expands the eligibility for both health care and benefits to a lot more veterans. And so we're excited about that in order for us to, get more veterans in and get them the benefits and services that they have earned. And so this PACT Act does just that. It just expands the benefit and allows millions more veterans to take advantage of this of benefits. And so next slide, John. Again, these are some of the key components of the PACT Act bill. Again, a part of that, as you all know, I think the biggest thing was that it added 20 plus new presumptive disabilities. And so there's a long list of disabilities that, that are involved here. And so I think some of the slides may give you some of those disabilities, but it's not all inclusive. So I would say that if you think you fall into one of these categories or you have one of the conditions listed as presumptive, by all means, I would encourage you to apply for benefits. So next slide. Again, this is the Gulf War era post 9/11 eligibility. So if you served on or after in these two particular areas, then you would be eligible for these new presumptive disabilities. So again, if you're not sure, as always, you should contact us, and you don't have anything to lose, in my opinion. You just have to ask and get the information that you need in order to make some informed decisions. So again, we'll provide this slide deck to you so that you can apply for benefits. All right, next slide. So these are the new radiation presumptive locations. So again, if you were in any of these areas and served during this time, again, you may be eligible for these presumptive disabilities under the PACT Act. So again, a lot of information on the eligibility and where you served and when you served. So again, I would say that you contact us, VBA, and we will be more than happy to sit down with you and meet with you to discuss your possible eligibility here, because it is a lot of information. Don't get discouraged by the amount of information, but because we're here to help you. Next slide. So again, as I mentioned before, as you all know, President signed this PACT Act on August 10th of 2022. And so these are all the presumed service-connected disabilities that if you have one of these, we will presume that it was related to your military service and that this makes you eligible for benefits. And so again, this list is not all inclusive. So I would not say, if you don't see a particular disability up here, please don't assume that it's not covered, because it definitely could be. Like I said, this is not an all-inclusive list. There were a couple of conditions that was a part of this PACT Act for Vietnam veterans. So all of my Vietnam veterans out there, one particular one that you might be interested in, and I think most people are, is hypertension. So that's a huge one for our Vietnam veterans. And so again, if you have hypertension you may be eligible to receive benefits as a result of your service for hypertension in Vietnam. So next slide. All right, so I mentioned already that on August the 10th, the president signed the bill, the PACT Act. And so on January 1st of 2023, we began processing claims related to the PACT Act. And I mean exactly on that day. We all know that was New Year's Day, the first day of the new year. And I'm happy to report that I had staff that were technically working on New Year's Day to start processing PACT Act related claims. And so was definitely very proud of those people that were willing to give up some of their time with their families and what have you in order to start processing some of these claims. So one thing I do want to mention to everyone that if you have not filed under the PACT Act, or you feel like you have one of these conditions, I'm encouraging you to apply right now. Technically, I'll say you should have already applied. You should have applied when the bill first was passed, because we were taking claims immediately when the PACT Act was passed. And so what that means is if you have to apply for benefits before August the 10th of 2023, that's this year. You have to apply before this year in order for us to go retroactive back to the date of the law, which is August the 10th of 2022. Okay, so if you don't apply until after August the 10th of 2023, then your date of claim will be the day we received your claim. Okay, so that's important. That's an important date to remember, is that you must apply before August the 10th of this year in order for us, say for instance, if you become eligible for benefits, we could retroactively go back to the date that President Biden signed the bill, which was August the 10th of 2022, to pay benefits. So again, it's very important that you do that. Second thing I want everyone on the call to understand and be aware of. Now, a lot of veterans may ask themselves, well, how will this PACT impact my current benefits? It does not. If you file a claim, this does not impact the current benefits that you have now, okay? So just wanted everyone to be clear about that. So if you're service connected now and you file for claims and we determine that you have a disability that is service connected, again, this could increase your overall service connected benefits, or they could remain the same. But again, this does not impact your current disability. And a couple other things I want you to be familiar with and understand is that you do not need anyone else to help you to apply for benefits. What I mean is that you do not have to pay anyone to apply for benefits. This is a time where you have people that will prey upon our veterans during this time. If you haven't already, maybe you have received requests from different organizations saying that, hey, if you come to us, we can file the claim for you, we can get you additional monies or these types of things. That is not required. You can file a claim on your own. That's number one. Or you can reach out to some of our service organizations and they will help you apply for benefits free of charge. So just want to put that message out there that, again, there's no need for you to pay for someone to help you apply for VA benefits. But again, that's your choice. If you decide you want to get an attorney, just with the understanding that, attorneys have fees, which you would be responsible for. And say, for an example, if you have an attorney and we grant you benefits and this attorney assisted you with your claim and whatever else they may have done, then that attorney would be entitled to some of your retroactive benefits. So that needs to be very clear, and you need to be very aware of that before deciding whether or not you need an attorney to file for benefits. So just wanted to make sure that you're aware that you don't have to do that. And you can learn more about filing for benefits and information about the PACT Act at va.gov/PACT, or you can call 1-800-MY-VA-411. All of that is on this slide. So again, this is how you file for claims for benefits. Next slide, John. I'll go back to that slide, John. Just wanted to reiterate here or point out that we're prioritizing claims with cancer. So if a veteran falls, is eligible under the PACT Act and they have cancer, we're prioritizing those claims, so they would get priority processing and consideration. So again, just wanted to point that out. Another thing I wanted to point out as it relates to everything that was in the bill or the act that was passed, that some of the provisions in there required that we would not start processing claims for certain conditions until later on, later on, like in 2023 or something like that. But President Biden, as well as our Secretary McDonough, made a decision that regardless of what the condition is, we would start processing those claims immediately. And so again, as I mentioned before, we start processing all PACT-related claims on January 1st of 2023. So again, I can't iterate enough for you that you should be applying for benefits now. I know sometimes we as young folks, we feel fine now and everything is going well, but you just never know. In a few years from now, you could be feeling a different kind of way. And so again, you can apply for benefits now. And if nothing, we usually rate claims, or we do rate claims on the residuals of the condition. And so you could very well be diagnosed with the condition. However, you don't have any immediate residuals from that condition. But you want to have that just in case, later on in life, that residuals start to show up. And then that way you're already service connected for those conditions. Again, I would not wait. I would apply now just to make sure that it's all documented in your records and those types of things. Okay. The other thing I just wanted to point out, some of, sometimes you don't like to give a whole lot of numbers when it comes to PACT Act, but just wanted for everyone's benefit that Philadelphia and Wilmington, as I mentioned to you before, we've been processing these claims. Actually, we started processing some claims prior to January 1st of 2023, especially if they were commingled with claims that were already in progress and they were not PACT Act related. So Philadelphia, before January 1st of 2023, we had already completed 3,696 claims. Of those, 2,340 were granted, 663 were denied. After January, on or after January 1st of 2023, we processed an additional 5,314, 4,189 were grants, and 631 were denied. Wilmington, again, 297 prior to January 1st of 2023, 243 granted, 42 denied. Closed on or after January 1st, 2023 was 151, 122 grants, and 23 denials. So again, we are well in the thick of these things, trying to, process as many of these claims as quickly as possible. And so we still, again, working on completing these claims as expeditiously as possible. Next slide, John. And just so you know, if you're a survivor, you also are eligible for benefits, could be eligible for benefits under the PACT Act. So again, you can apply for dependency and indemnity compensation or burial benefits. So again, please take advantage of that. Next slide, John. I think I may have lost John. If you've applied and you were denied previously, you can open up another claim, file a supplemental claim. And so again, I would encourage you to do so. If you have a condition that we previously denied because it wasn't a part, we hadn't recognized it as a presumptive disability, and now it is recognized as a presumptive disability under the PACT Act, I would encourage you to submit a supplemental claim. All right. Next slide. And so with all this going on, the PACT Act and a lot of work to be done. So guess what? We're hiring. VBA, we are hiring. If you haven't heard, then this is for you. We're hiring. We're having a hiring fair, in-person hiring fair at our regional office on Thursday, February 16th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And our address is listed there. We're asking today today is the 2nd. You can register and apply for any one of these 3 positions and right now, and then you'd be provided with some information. You can show up. We would be doing on-the-spot interviews and making offers for these jobs on the 16th. We will be accepting walk-ins as well. So if you walk in, you're interested in one of these positions, we will also be allowing you to apply and interviewing you on the spot and making job offers right on the spot. So again, we are excited to be doing this. Again, we're going to be, hiring for our rating veteran service representatives, our veteran service representatives, our legal administrative specialists, which is also our contact center agents, our call center agents. So again, if you're interested or someone might be interested in working for the Department of Veterans Affairs, please by all means share this information with them. With that being said, I'll take any questions that you all may have, and I think this is the last slide. That was the last slide.
Great, Lillie. Thank you so much for that presentation. So Karen, there's a series of Q&As. Have you gotten a chance to look at any of those, and do any of those jump out as ones you want to answer?
So I've looked at all of them, and I didn't answer any of them because I wasn't going to type all those answers. But here's what I'm going to say up front. Let me just say this. Lillie, in her conversation too, she answered some of the questions. So there was a question about primary and secondary screening. So the questions asked of the nurse practitioner, I think in your primary care, I think Lori might have asked this, was I got the first screening, haven't had the second screening yet. They will reach back out to you, Lori. That's my understanding. Certainly we would do that here. Each site might be a little different because of how they've tailored it. So if you have not heard in a little bit of time about a need for a secondary screening, which is another set of questions, quite honestly, Lori, then reach back out to your primary care provider. That would be what I'd recommend there. There was some, and Lillie corrected this, and quite honestly, Hugo, don't send my slides up because I'm going to pull that one slide, or Fern can pull the one slide that had the dates on there, because with some of the changes, I neglected to pull that. So if you have exposure or think there's been exposure and you've been stationed in certain areas, per Lillie's, comment, certainly the secretary and the president have said, file the claim and, go forward with that. So that was a question in the mix there too. There was also specific questions about a follow-up to an earlier, a question was about getting over the cancers. Does that mean I shouldn't file in the PACT Act? No. The good news, if that's, that's a really good piece of medical news and clinical news if you are cancer-free. It does not mean that you should not probably check that eligibility based on this where you've stationed. That's what I'm understanding related to that. Kind of scanning the calls. What about exposure stateside if you provide proof of event for base? We've had questions about other areas. Fort Drum was an area that specifically when I was out in the community at one of the military fraternities, Mu Beta Pi, they asked that question because we did have some veterans who were stationed there. It had not been on the list yet of inclusions, but Lillie, what do you think? Do we get people to put a claim in to have the information about that? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. We should file a claim. They should file a claim, and I always say, when in doubt, file a claim, because you have really nothing to lose by doing that. And so, yeah, I think we should file a claim.
So that's I would like to emphasize that point, because if I see a
Sure.
theme in some of these questions,
Exactly.
it's should I do this? I was here, I got denied. Should I reapply? it sounds to me like the general guidance should be, if you feel that your military service has impacted you in any way, health-wise, file a claim. Is that good guidance?
Yes, absolutely. I would say, yes, you should be. I was reading some of the question and answers, and some saying, well, I was denied previously. Again, you can file a supplemental claim. If you feel as though now, because of the PACT Act, and you see your disability, even if you don't see it, you should file a claim so that we can review. If you have additional evidence that support it, by all means, you should file a claim, provide us with that additional evidence, and so that we can take a relook at your claim.
And I think the other thing I would bring up is there was a question about va.gov/PACT. Well, you know, I see how to file a claim, but there isn't very much information. We will share these slides, but I would say two things. And re-emphasizing what was just said of, if there's any doubt, file a claim. And then, and I've learned this in my time in the military, you need to keep pushing. And if you don't hear anything, look into it, keep pushing. This is your health that we're talking about, and your best advocate is yourself. As we've just heard, the VA is getting thousands of claims, and I'm sure that will go into six figures. And the best advocate for yourself is you. As painful as that might be.
No, but I think that's true. I mean, be the voice that speaks up, be the one to say, let me ask if, not why not. So
Right.
Lean in, from my humble perspective, lean in to say, it may be, let's figure it out. Ms. Hall stated here, what if my health records do not show or list symptoms of burn pit or other requirements? We're going to know where you served. And this is the whole piece about the presumptions of conditions. If you served in an area where there was a burn pit, there's a presumption of connection. Okay, so some may not have records, health records, because maybe you didn't feel poorly then or such. This is why this is so different and so important to underscore to what Director Nuble is saying. File a claim. File a claim. We can figure out the pieces. Steve Jackson was in Thailand in 73 during the Vietnam War. Steve, same thing. You were denied a claim for cancer in 2011, but stationed at the airbase in Thailand, exposed to Agent Orange, same thing. I mean, I think this is where, give us all the opportunity to look into this, to review, reevaluate. It goes back to a couple questions here too about a spouse who might have been denied that, but with 10 deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, they're listed. They're listed, and your husband got sick. Again, Lori, this is Lori Hale, file the claim.
I would also tell you, as someone who, as a veteran who sometimes says, hey, there are people that need services more than I do. The flip side of that, I would say, is put this stuff in so that we can learn about the future. You know, we've probably made some dumb decisions and stuff that we've used and burn pits, but let's get the data together so that in the future, DOD and the government realize that some of these things are not good for humans. So view it as doing a service to future service people of filing these claims so that we can learn from these mistakes and what we've done. So,
you know, I think it goes back, Hugo, to the question and the statement there about the research and informing for the research for the future. You know, on all my military life, you know, I think, yeah, I'm fine, everything, but I'll do it for somebody else. There will be people who will do it for somebody else. So let's do it for each other. Let's make sure we say, yes, we can. This was, and then if everything's fine, how glorious is that? I mean, if everything is fine and we're okay, that's the really good news of all of this. But if we're not, and we don't find, you know, we find out in 10 years from now, we're not, and there was some service connection, we should know that as well. And we should be able to provide support to those veterans who deserve that for sure, earned and deserved.
great. We're going to wind down very quickly, but actually there was a question that just popped in about, so somebody filed a claim and then a nexus letter and fill out a DBQ. Otherwise she may be denied. Do those words, phrases mean anything? Nexus letter, DBQ?
Well, first of all, if you filing a claim and, you know, the nexus, not to get into anything too critical, you know, the nexus, what that means is the connection. A connection between what you have, what you're experiencing now, or the condition you have now, related to your military service. Now, the presumptive, as Karen mentioned, is that if you serve during these periods of time and you have one of these conditions, then the VA is presuming that you were exposed, and so now you are eligible for service connection for that benefit. Of course, that allows you to get money for it and also allows you to seek health care for it as well. Now, the DBQ, yeah, that's another thing that your private medical people can complete for you and send that information to, and we use that as a part of your claim as well. In order to determine if you have the condition, the current severity of the condition, and all of that. And however, you know, when we review your claim in its entirety, we still may have to, you know, schedule you for a VA examination, a comp and pen, that's what we've been calling it for years, schedule you for an examination. So there's a lot involved sometimes with that. And so what I'd say to you, whatever medical evidence you have, please submit it, okay? Whether it's a DBQ or it doesn't even have to be a DBQ. Any private medical treatment records that you have, you can submit those to us directly yourself, or when you file a claim and you provide us with the name of your providers, we will go out and request that information from them. So it's so many ways that we will work with you to get what we need in order for us to make sure you submit a complete claim. So we can have all the information that we need so that we can make a decision on your claim.
Understood. So for everybody that's attending, we will attempt to get answers to these Q&As. Some of them have been answered in this meeting. We'll attempt to get answers for you that we haven't been able to answer live. Karen and Lillie, thank you so much for briefing us on this. As we talked about, this is a critical issue. I think it's extremely important, not only for current health, but for future health of future service members. And so let's file the claims. Let's flood the government with information and with data so that they can make some informed decisions. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. As I said at the beginning of this, if you get a chance to attend more of these, do so. I learned stuff in this meeting that I didn't know before. So it's critical. Karen and Lillie, any last comments before we sign off?
File your claim.
There you go.
Yeah, that's all I'd say is file your claim, and when in doubt, call us.
Exactly.
You know, call us, ask. We're here to help you and support you. This is a benefit that you've earned and deserve, and so we want you to have it. So we're doing everything we can to get the word out. We're doing lots of outreach. So as Hugo mentioned, whenever you get an opportunity to sit in on some of these calls and any additional information you can receive can only be helpful. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Be well.